July 24th, 2013, into Mongolia. Drops of rain hitting my face pulled me from my sleep. The sky was black and the storm was blowing through. I pulled my bivvy over my head and went back to sleep. By morning, clouds had gone and the sun was rising into a clear blue sky. Mark and I pedaled 25 miles to Tashanta, the last town of Russia, a quiet outpost sitting among grassy hills. I walked into the border station to let them examine my documents. The agent was a kind man in his 50s, sitting behind a desk in the sparse one-room building. I handed him my passport, and he asked for something more, but I couldn't understand him. On his old desktop computer, he pulled up a translation website to explain that there is a Russian law requiring all foreigners to register at a hotel before leaving the country. I vaguely knew of this rule from my visa paperwork. The first hotel I stayed at was 9 days into Russia. I considered asking about the document, but communicating was difficult, and once the opportunity passed, I never asked again. I figured the paperwork wouldn't matter anyway. Today, I learned the bureaucracy will not be ignored. The man said the fine was $150, but his whole demeanor indicated that charging me was not what he wanted to do. He said I just needed any proof that I had stayed at a hotel. Even a receipt would work. I used to have a receipt. I remembered holding on to the stub for weeks before deciding there was no point. I told him I would be back, then stepped outside to consider my options. Mark did not have the same problem as me. He knew the rules and had gotten the paperwork filled out in Novosibirsk. He showed me the simple signed note with his name. I had a note too, from the Russian army captain I drunk vodka with 3 days ago. I took both the notes and walked back inside. Laying the document on his desk, I hoped they crossed the low bar the man had set. I pointed to the note given to me by the drunk army captain, but I wasn't exactly sure what was said, and then to Mark's document. I lied and told the man I was with Mark at the time, but hadn't gotten my name on the paper. The border agent looked them over and nodded. That was enough for him. I watched as he checked the box on the paperwork before stamping me out of Russia. Parked at the gate were 2 ruggedized Land Cruisers on their way out of Mongolia. They had winches on the front bumpers, snorkeled air intakes for high water, and spare tires strapped to the roof. I spoke to a woman in the passenger seat who looked quite shaken. She didn't speak English, but we were able to communicate something about a flooded road. I asked what road they had taken and how a bicycle would fare, but I couldn't understand her answer. To see her so unnerved in such a capable vehicle made me worried that I had arrived unprepared. Mark and I pedaled a quiet 15 miles across the no man's land before arriving to a Mongolian guard shack atop a windswept hill. A few soldiers were kneeling on the ground, creating a decorative mosaic out of colorful stones scavenged from the area. I handed over my passport for a stamp, then stepped past the blue and red striped post, marking the border of Mongolia. My emotions were running high. I was excited to arrive, but more than anything, I was glad to be out of Russia. Crossing the plains had become excruciating by the end. When starting the journey, I did not expect that one of my greatest challenges would be the tedium of a straight road that stretches on for months. My mental stamina to perform such a feat is not well developed, and I feel that my psyche has been brought to a fragile edge. I learned that the fortitude necessary to do what is hard becomes multiplied when the thing is also dull. I feel as though just another day or two, stuck in the monotony of the plains, would have surely broken me. I'm so glad to be out of Russia. Finally. The road turned to dirt, and Mark and I stopped at the first dusty little town, just a dozen small buildings made from wood and mud. After wandering around for a few minutes, a young man approached us and asked if we needed to exchange money. He took us to his cafe, where he also lived. We sat at the only table and were served tea and pot stickers cooked by his mother. Mark exchanged money, then I tried as well, but the man didn't have enough cash. He took my $140 worth of rubles, then disappeared for a long time while he went around to his neighbors trying to get more Mongolian tukriks. I wasn't sure of the ATM situation in Mongolia, so I brought enough money from Novosibirsk to get me to China. The man returned with all the cash in town, but he couldn't cover the whole exchange. The money he gave me will have to be enough. I'll just need to keep my budget to $3 per day. Mark and I carried on through a landscape of dry, treeless hills, grazing cows and domed yurts. I've never seen a yurt in person. They looked like white gumdrops sitting in the distant green meadows. This evening, the open landscape left nowhere to hide, so we set up camp on a hillside away from the road. Soon after, a father and his teenage son arrived on a dirt bike to say hello. The father was friendly and smiled the whole time. He asked me to get out my camera to take a picture with him and his son. I stood between them with my arms over their shoulders. The Mongolian welcome party.